The Florida State Seminoles, one of the most prestigious programs for football in the ACC, though since that 2013 national championship and their 2016 Orange Bowl win with Jimbo Fisher, they have kind of been in a turbulent time. They hired Willie Taggart and he did not work out for them, and then they hired Mike Norvell from Memphis and he's gone 18-16, but he's gotten their first bowl victory since 2017, so that's good. And they had a 10-3 season, and if you believe what people are saying this offseason, they are going to be really good. They are ranked in this preseason poll at number 3, which is the highest they've been in a while from what I can remember. So they are trying to live up to the hype. But where do they start? So we'll start with the departures as always. Micah Pittman, one of the starting wide receivers, is gone. He was one of those Hunter Renfrow types. When you needed a catch, he got them. He had that big catch in the NC State game. But Amarion Cooper, a starting cornerback, is gone. He left for Colorado, interestingly. Uh, he will be he can be replaced, but it's not good to lose that depth at that position or a starter. But Florida State secondary is still going to be very good. And Trayshawn Ward, he transfers to Kansas State. This is a big one because Florida State doesn't really have that power back that we're used to seeing. Cam Akers was there. He was really good. Even though he didn't have that much of a team around him, he was definitely the highlight during those down years for Florida State fans. But you really have to find that running back that's going to fill out that role of a power back. Although you do have coming back Jordan Travis, who's exceptional at running, and Jordan Travis is going to be a big part of this season preview. But on the flip side, your run defense was a little inconsistent. They had close games to Florida and Oklahoma, which were kind of head scratching to everybody. Their run defense just kind of just crumpled. At obviously he can get it done with his legs. You see in this clip here how he's able to bring the outside linebacker. He has to stay home so that he can catch Travis on the run. But, when he gets into the open field, he can make a move and make a guy miss and bust out for a big run. And that's one of his strengths that we've seen from the beginning. But his throwing ability is where he's really progressed. And in this clip against LSU, you can see him standing in the pocket, taking a big shot and throwing it very well on a deep pass for a touchdown to his receiver. And I wanna shout out X's and Knowles. He did a great analysis on this play where Travis actually changed the blocking scheme for the offensive line to pick up the blitz from LSU. And I highly recommend his videos. I'll link his channel in the description. Definitely give him a watch. Very good football analysis from him. But Travis, his concern is that he can be accurate, but will he be consistently accurate? He can make throws like you saw in that LSU play, but he can also totally miss and throw an interception like he did against NC State, where they only needed a field goal, but he went for the touchdown as the play was designed. He didn't go rogue or something, but he misplaced the ball, and NC State was able to get a late turnover and stop them from getting that field goal, which would have won them the game. They were only down by 2. But, yeah, you were one play away from going 10-2 on the regular season, so that is the concern. But he is a very good player. He's going to win you a lot of games, as he did last year. Another strength, your secondary. As I said, Florida State has a long history of very good defensive backs and safeties, and that tradition has continued. They're very deep at that position. Linebackers, very solid, very solid. Offensive line as well. Wide receiver, you have this uh, very tall Johnny Wilson is his name, 6'7". He's a very good red zone threat. So look for him to have some touchdown catches by the end of the year, just because of his physical size. And uh, that is the strengths. Weaknesses, running back, as I said. Although I don't think it's too much of a weakness in the sense that you're not going to have any good running backs. It's just at this point, we don't know who the main running back is going to be. Um, Defensive line is a concern because they had some weird games, like I said, against Oklahoma and Florida, where they just didn't show up. So it makes me wonder how consistent are they going to be throughout this season. Um, if you come out against Clemson and you don't have that run defense that you had against, NC State or uh, Boston College, although Boston College didn't have a great running game this year. Louisville, LSU, you had great defensive performances there from your defensive line, but some real head scratchers even in wins. So consistency a concern for the defensive line and kicker. You did not have a good kicking game, and when you're a team that wants to compete on the national stage, you have to be tip top on all your positions. And like I said, you saw with Ohio State in the playoff, it came down to a kicker. They didn't have one, and it cost them. It cost them a shot at the national championship. So those are the concerns. But let's get into the schedule. You start off in Orlando against LSU. This is a tough first game, but you're playing in Orlando. You're gonna have more of your home fans there. Uh, you beat them last year. Jalen Daniels is back for LSU, as is most of the defense. They're sort of in a similar position where they're getting hyped up for this season and what they can do. And this is a battle of who is going to live up to the hype more from building off of last year. And you only won off a blocked extra point. It's going to be close. You don't really have a running back going into this game. I think that it's really going to come down to Jordan Travis versus Jalen Daniels. It's going to be a quarterback battle, and whoever can make the most amount of plays will win. And I think Jordan Travis is more of a dual threat than Jalen Daniels, and that is what gets you the win. Because as we saw in those clips, Jordan Travis can basically take an entire defender out of the play with his running ability. Because you essentially have to put a spy on him if you don't get the containment that you want from your defensive line. So I think that gets you the win. I think it'll be a close game. This is definitely a one-score game, as it was last year. But you get the win in Orlando to start off the year. Then you play the Southern Miss Golden Eagles. This is a team that you should beat down on. Probably a 20-point win, maybe more, but a 20-point win at least. This will be a fine game to relax as a Seminole fan. No need to worry about Southern Miss. Then you go on the road to Boston College. So, if you've watched my Boston College video, you know what I think about this game. Do not, under any circumstances, look past this game to focus on the Clemson game. You can't do that. You have to respect Boston College as an opponent because even though they went 3-9 last year, they can pull off an upset as they showed against NC State. NC State beat you last year, but they lost to Boston College. So Boston College, we know, has the ability to beat just about anybody on any given day. So, with that being said, I think you beat them, but don't come out flat. Don't overlook the Eagles because they are going to be better than they were last year. The offensive line is going to be improved. Their running game will probably be improved as well. I don't know by how much, but it'll definitely be better. And you're going to get Boston College's best shot. You're the only ranked team on their schedule. That game is absolutely circled for them. That's their Super Bowl. That's their ACC championship, Orange Bowl, whatever you want to call it. That is the game of the year for them. So, don't overlook that game. A win at Boston College. Then you go to play Clemson. Now, I said earlier that Jordan Travis is going to win you games, but you need support around him. It's a team sport. You need a team around the quarterback. You have the receivers, you have the offensive line to do that. I think running back is what kills you here. I think you lose because they single out Jordan Travis in the running game. They have the linebackers that can make the open field tackle. Not to say that Jordan Travis won't have some big runs in this game. He absolutely will. That's who he is as a player. He will have some big throws. This is going to be an epic clash between Florida State and Clemson. You know, it was a 6-point game last year, and that was in Tallahassee. I think Clemson is really fortunate to have this in Death Valley because, you know, they're going through a quarterback change. They've committed to Cade Klubnik, or, you know, Vizeni could come out at this point, but I really think it's going to be Klubnik. And it's going to be how much can Cade Klubnik do against that Florida State defense to win, you know, to score points. And I think he does just enough because they're at home. And I think Clemson beats you again. But, man, is this going to be a fun game to watch. It's going to be so close. This is the game of the year for the ACC in conference. So, a loss, but definitely close. And I'll go ahead and tell you now, I'll probably be picking you next year to win against Clemson because it'll be in Tallahassee. Then you play Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is in a rebuild. I think you easily beat them. You're at home. Maybe a disappointment after the Clemson game, but it's Virginia Tech. I don't think you get let down enough to just completely give up on the year because, you know, you can have one loss, and since we have no more divisions, you will be able to come back in the ACC championship for a rematch against Clemson if they were to make the title game. So, no concern there. So, you get a win against the Hokies. Then you play Syracuse. Syracuse can give some teams some trouble, but, you know, again, you're at home. This is another one of your permanent opponents, by the way, Syracuse. Clemson, Syracuse, and Miami are your permanent opponents. Clemson and Miami make sense because those are your rivals. Syracuse, not really sure what the decision was there. Probably a case of, well, we don't really have a team that has a lot of history that can pair up with Syracuse. Let's just give them Florida State so that they can measure themselves up with the higher end of the ACC every year. And I think that's a smart decision. You know, Syracuse could have gotten Clemson, but Florida State just as good. Uh, I think you beat Syracuse, Dino Babers. They'll have a good year. They'll most likely make another bowl game, but I don't think they're to that point where they're challenging Clemson. Giving Clemson a run for their money, or giving you a run for your money at home. Maybe on the road, if this was in the Carrier Dome, little more concern, of course, but you get a win against the Orange. Then you play Duke for homecoming. Interesting choice for homecoming, Duke. If you've seen my Duke video, you know that this is a win for Florida State. This is kind of a battle between mobile quarterbacks, though, which is really interesting. Riley Leonard, obviously a dual threat we saw last year, and Jordan Travis, we all know what he can do from what we've seen. So this is going to be very interesting. I think this will be one of those rare cases where both quarterbacks have rushing and throwing touchdowns. Obviously, Duke's defense isn't as good as yours, and I think that's what gets you the win. Your defense will make more stops, probably have an extra turnover or two, and that's what downs the Blue Devils in Tallahassee. So you get another win. 3 straight wins after that loss to Clemson, and now you play at Wake Forest. Wake Forest is in a rebuilding year. I think you get the win here. It'll probably be a blowout. It's going to be a tough year for Wake Forest. They lost Sam Hartman, and I think that was so integral to their program that it's going to be a rough year. But back-to-back road games, and you go to the Panthers in Pittsburgh. This is a tough one because, back-to-back road games is hard. You had that earlier in the year, and you got it done for Boston College, which was the first game, and then you lost to Clemson. I think you learn from your mistakes, though. I think your secondary shuts down Phil Dracovic. You get some pressure on him with your defensive line, and Jordan Travis is able to evade the Pitt defensive line, which is a very good group. Pat Narduzzi is very good in his defensive line, his pass rush scheme. So that'll be a fun one to watch as well. The Pitt defensive line against the Florida State offensive line and Jordan Travis's scramble ability. But you get the win in Pittsburgh. And then you face off against your rival, Miami. This is a interesting game because last year you blew them out. But we've seen cases where it was a blowout the year before, but then the next year you come right back to them and it's really close. Like a 1-point game or a 1-score game. There was a year... There was 1 year a few years back where you won off a block extra point or a missed extra point, kind of like the LSU game last year. And, some weird things just happen against these guys. When you two get together, it's just wacky. Wide right, wide left, all that history. Tyler Van Dyke is back for them. And I think the idea that anything can happen in a rivalry game, there is so much evidence to point to that being true. I think you trip up against the Hurricanes. I think your overconfidence gets to you, those guys that were there last year, I think they're just going to steamroll the Hurricanes. And the Hurricanes have something to prove with how they got embarrassed last year by quite a few teams. Middle Tennessee State, they want to put the U back into the spotlight nationally. And they get some revenge. Then you play the North Alabama Lions. This will be a win.
Obviously, not much to say there. It's North Alabama. And then you finish off the year at Florida against the Gators in the Swamp. Florida is in a tough spot. They don't have Anthony Richardson anymore. Some people want Napier gone. I think the Florida program is in disarray. They're no longer the second best or best team in the East. Georgia is the best team, and the second best team is Tennessee. You might not even be the third best team or even the fourth best team. South Carolina and Kentucky are. They've been giving you a hard time in recent years, so not great time to be a Gator fan. I think you get the win here. I think you have the quarterback experience. Simply that alone gets you the win. You know, this is the fourth time that Jordan Travis has had to face an SEC defense in the past 2 years, and I think that's enough to get the win for the Noles. So you finish off at 10-2. Depending on what happens with the rest of the teams in the ACC, I think that's good enough to possibly get into the title game. You know, you're not sure what someone like NC State or UNC is going to do. Although I think this is, well, I won't say that. I'll say that for when I talk about them. But I think you could realistically get into the ACC championship game, and if possibly a playoff spot. Who knows? But yeah, that's the season preview for the Florida State Seminoles. I would like to thank everyone for watching, who has watched any of my videos and who has subscribed. Thank you very much. I appreciate your support, and I'll see you next time for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets.